Hello and welcome to this podcast. This is VFitter University. My name is Elijah and today we are here with Max Dordevic. We are very excited to talk to you. We're all about AI simulation and how to integrate AI to kind of like practice the knowledge and turn it into wisdom. I'll let you introduce yourself and we can go from there. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, awesome to be here, and I appreciate the invite. Love getting on a podcast and sharing what we do. So I definitely appreciate it. So my background is unusual for biotech. I did econ and poli-sci at the University of Texas. I ran track there back in the day. Sort of got it, not going to go too in depth, but got hurt, stopped running, was around physicians a lot, thought I wanted to be a doctor, shadowed one, and basically was like, I don't really want to spend 4 years in medical school and then 9 years to become a neurosurgeon, because it would be like neurosurgery or bust. Worked at a couple biotechs and some pharma companies, and worked in venture capital for about a year. It was fun. I learned a lot, and that was my sort of. I had a company before that I, that I really loved and learned like how to operate a company. But I was never exposed to like venture-backed startups, and until I actually had the job in venture, I was vetting healthcare deals. Did that for about a year, and then roped in to longtime friends of mine, known them since we were in grade school, basically. I've known them since we were like 10, making bottle rockets and whatnot, in our backyard or whatever. But Connor's a physicist and Lucas is a ML engineer, mathematician. And so basically gave him a call one day 2 years ago at this point, and started the company in October of 21. We incorporated in November, and we raised our money in December. And then now it's like harder to raise money, because like that was like the peak of the market. I literally think our pre-seed funding came in like the 31st of December. And then like I think that was like plus or minus a week of the peak of the stock market. But in any case, it's been a solid 2 years. Team of 10 and 8 full-time, 2 part-time, and then great advisory board, and we essentially make drugs with AI.
Wow.
It's the best way I can put it, sort of in one sentence.
This is amazing. Because like if you think about all the knowledge in the world, or like everything that exists in the world, they're either practical or not practical. They're still knowledge, and AI kind of helps us deal with that knowledge and put it into practice without dedicating the resource and time and money. And so how do you guys basically use AI in the process of drug discovery or drug development?
Sure. So drug discovery is, we don't use a language model. So the problem with a language model, and there's some, there's academics working on sort of applying diffusion models for certain aspects of, I won't get like too deep into like the pharmacology and whatnot, but more or less people are trying to do things with language models, like in genomics, like you're taking all, genetic data and parsing it, and that sort of makes sense. I'm not, that's not my expertise, but there are definitely use cases for an LLM in biotech and in pharma. We use it on the research side. It's fantastic for research. It's like, again, it ends up being a good place to start. Like I wouldn't rely on that data for like, 100%, it's not 100% accurate, but it's a really good place to start, if you're looking to, the history of Alzheimer's and drug failures and drug approvals, and when you're doing sort of very preliminary research, wanting to identify literature to sort of jumpstart your program for a given disease. So it's great for that, but physics is the gold standard for drug discovery. And so instead of using a language model, we use these physics-based simulations. Because, if you think about it, you have a target, it's a protein target, it's a 3-dimensional structure, and then you have your molecules, 3-dimensional structure, and you're trying to, initially first just dock the molecule. Like it literally has to fit into a binding site.
Yes.
And you used to have to do, I'm not going to go like into the history of, all of drug discovery, but like, in the 1900s, people, would go, find, we had an idea of like something that like worked. A really good example of this, ironically, is like cocaine. And so people knew it was like a numbing agent. And then they derived like benzocaine and lidocaine and novocaine to get the numbing properties without having like the addictive properties. And that's sort of rational drug design is sort of what they call that. From there you have sort of, and that was basically up until at least the 50s and 60s. And there's companies still obviously, taking natural drugs and synthesizing them from there. But you basically, it was sort of just guessing and sort of just rationally going, okay, this does this. I'm a medicinal chemist. I'm going to modify it in the lab by hand, and it's TVs to sell. 70s, 80s, 90s, computers are decent enough to start being able to do comp chem. But again, they basically brute force it. You have a huge compound library, and you just guess and check. Does this bind? Does this not bind? You eventually, from that compound library, which is finite, have some hits and take those into sort of preclinical development and see, what if you can get something from that.
Wow.
Mid 2000s, you have companies that come along that go, well, can we speed up that process of high throughput virtual screening? So they use a little bit of ML. Again, this is like 2012 to 2015. They use some ML to expedite that process, but it's still, again, you're limited to a library of, even if it's 1 trillion molecules, that's, a fraction of what is estimated to be 10 to the 70, which is, I think, 10 nova decillion or something like that. That's the high end estimate. The low end estimate is still 10 to the 30. And so I think the largest compound libraries are in the billions. And so you go, well, you have this huge sort of white space. There's massive, swaths of chemical space that hasn't been explored, doesn't exist in literature, doesn't exist anywhere. And so how do you identify and generate compounds that are novel, that are, patentable, that are effective, and, ultimately are going to, and can you do it more efficiently, cheaper, faster, better, whatever superlative you want to use. But at the end of the day, AI allows you, in the way that we do it, for instance, to we get one hit in 70. Traditional high throughput screening gets one hit in 1200.
Wait, what is one hit?
So one hit's like the drug binds. So like so for every, so like normally if you brute force it, more or less, even if you use ML, it's like aiding the high throughput screening. It's still not particularly efficient, but straight high throughput traditional, it's still done today. High throughput virtual screening is basically one drug that theoretically will work, is the simplest way I can put it, versus 1 in 70 in our case. And again, we optimize for various parameters, but our whole focus is neurology, just because it's I joke, we started a company in probably the worst time to start a biotech company, in the hardest indication and the hardest disease area with the highest failure rate of any category of drug. So you look at, best case scenario, 1 in 10 drugs gets approved.
Oh, wow.
In neuro, it's failure rate's 99%, maybe a little higher. It's come down a little. Used to be 99.6 for Alzheimer's specifically, but it's like 98, 99%. Better in some cases, worse for others, but plus or minus 2%, 3%. And in any case, it's really, you got to be really confident in the drug you choose to take into human trials, because ultimately you have, let's say you have 1 million. You ultimately narrow that down to 10, 20, 30, 40, 100. It depends on what what your budget is. You take those into the wet lab. You got to pick one, and that's what you're rolling with. That, like, you're in it for the long haul. Literally, it's 7 to, but that'd be quick. It would be 7. but it's like 9 to 12, I think is the average approval time. So like you really have to be confident, and companies dump, billions of dollars. I think the average now is 2.2. It used to be a little less, into the development of drugs. And they really have to have conviction that you have to have conviction. You're, again, as an early stage biotech, you partner with pharma companies, they have to have a lot of conviction in your compound. And so the idea of using AI is like, let's increase that conviction. Let's lower the failure rate.
Yes.
Even incrementally, a 1% improvement, a 2% improvement, 3%,
that's like way better.
That is, it's just, if you can do it early on, and basically, you basically want one of two things to happen. Your drug fail really fast. You get shitty data. I swear.
But fast.
You can have, you want it to fail fast, or you want it to get approved. The worst thing that happens is your drug fails at phase 3, and you've burned hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And you companies that thousands of people are taking this into clinical development, putting it in human trials, and then it fails just because for whatever, there's a million reasons why drugs fail and don't get approved. But that's what we want. We want to
exactly. We want that. Get
the failure rate down. If you want to be glass half full.
True.
Improve the success rate. But I think when you say like, the odds of approval are, 2 to 5 to 10%. That isn't. I think it says a lot more when you go, no, the failure rate's 90+%.
Yeah.
It's not a. But again, if you hit, if you hit MS, Alzheimer's, ALS, Parkinson's, and you get a drug approved in that category, I mean, that drug will do billions of dollars a year for a decade. And then they also AI also allows us basically to, there's, I think, and again, I this number is a ballpark, like 7,000 rare and neglected diseases. So these are diseases that have a couple hundred, couple thousand patients, just in the US. There's usually, for any one of these rare diseases, there's usually more, like if you look at the stats, but for whatever reason, the child hasn't been had a genetic test or, whatever. But AI basically allows you to find something for one of these much faster and for like pennies on the dollar compared to, what basically used to be not practical. Like it'd be very difficult to justify a drug for a rare disease. It's just, you could do it cheaper. These are not diseases where you will make a lot of money, but ideally you can get them through, and there's a huge need. I mean, these patient advocacy groups, usually made up of parents, again, a lot of these are genetic diseases or in any case, that's the promise of AI, and we're still in the early days, but it's one of those things where the approval, theoretically, we just had there are a couple AI derived drugs right now in human trials, a handful. Arguably, one had there's the Biogen has a drug that sort of was discovered with AI. It wasn't discovered generatively, but I could, again, don't quote me on that. But that's theoretically the first like ML-aided design drug. But we haven't had a drug that has been designed generatively, that doesn't exist in a compound library approved yet, and we still won't know for a couple of years if again, a lot of this is just, and this is science in general, we're pretty sure like this is a better way to go, but we're not going to know if it, how good the AI is. Like the tech will always, the evidence will always lag the tech, because the tech will improve.
I agree.
But then because the process is so slow to get the drug approved, you won't know how good the current tech is for a couple years. Yes. If you're looking at like approval rates. Now, again, there's ways to measure it in vitro, like in a petri dish, where you're, you can with a reasonable degree of accurate, confidence say, yes, this is better.
But when I see it, is like
comes down to like approvals.
Think about this: like more trials, more errors, more progress. So if we're getting more errors, we don't necessarily have to look at that, because we're
failure is still progress. Best way I would put it is bad data is still good data.
Because it's data.
It's useful data.
Yes.
In that you can refine your model. You can now we know, like Merck had a failure in an MS compound, and it seems to be more of a target biology problem than a compound problem, because the drug seemed to be effective and they had enough conviction to take it into a phase 3, and ultimately failed. But now we know, okay, this is why it failed, and now we can go back to the drawing board and so there is good things. I mean, I think in anything in life, like I think there's always a silver lining, and you can draw a lot from failure. But at the same, so there is good. There is good that comes from bad, but ultimately, let's get a drug to market faster.
That's facts. And like at the end of the day, you have to test it on a human to make sure it's 100% effective. And even though when you do that, you don't know if it's going to work on another human, right? So it's like, it's always like a challenge.
There are companies now that are AI companies that are doing, and there have been companies like Viva Systems, I believe is probably the largest, that do like clinical trial. They aid in the design of studies. I believe it's Viva, but I could be wrong. But there are some startups and whatnot that are doing like how do we apply AI to basically make sure we're selecting the right patients that make the most sense for the study, because you can really botch a study if you have really poor selection of patients for a myriad of reasons.
That's interesting.
But that's another like great AI use case. There's AI companies doing IND investigative new drug applications and NDAs of new drug applications. There are companies doing like, is your compound patentable? Is it too similar? Again, like this, somebody could sue you, but like, is your drug different enough from somebody else's drug that it's you're safe and taking the time and effort to go patent that drug.
Wow. I didn't
know.
And
so there's a lot of
sue people for
cases for that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, for sure. Lawsuits and wait, sued for like patent infringement. Like when you file a drug patent, you usually file. Usually, what happens is like the you have a main, look at like Prozac, fluoxetine. They patent that, but then they also patent like a zillion, like slightly different versions of it in like various iterations. And so if you're too similar, either the patent office will say we can't approve this patent, or even if you do get approved, I mean, you can get sued for anything in the U.S., but like, who knows what XYZ pharma company could go, we think it's too similar, we're going to sue you. So there's companies that, they want to make sure that your drug is, patentable and it's expensive to file a patent, but ultimately in this business, there's value in the AI, and you want to decrease the failure rate, but ultimately your value is derived at the end of the day from the drug you make. Like you can ascribe a value to that, and as it progresses through clinical development, i.e. phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then, if it has good phase 3 data, the FDA, hopefully will approve it. And then, but by then usually the drug has been, co-developed or licensed off or something where you're sharing the risk. Because pharma is amazing at the commercialization, the distribution, the regulatory, all of that stuff. But I believe it's the number somewhere between 60 and 80% of drugs that have been approved in the last 20 years have all basically come outside of Pfizer and BioNTech. Like it's the BioNTech vaccine. It's not the yes, it's the Pfizer vaccine because they collaborated on it, but like the technology I believe originated in BioNTech. So that's probably the most common example I can give you. But like if we come up with a drug for whatever disease, we would then partner that drug off or license it or what have you, and the pharma company then takes it, because clinical trials in humans are expensive. They finance it. Like they're really, really good at that part of it. But usually it's either academia or biotech companies that they license the drugs out of, because if you're a small and medium sized biotech, you don't have the distribution. You don't have whoever at Pfizer can call up the CEO of CVS and go, hey, or whatever, the various healthcare companies, whatever, and the United Health, the insurers, and sort of deal with all that. That's not something like financially like a biotech would want to take on. Some do, and if you do, you wholly own the asset, and so you get all the revenue from it. But there's also a lot of risk in doing that. So it depends on where you are. So that's my rambling answer to basically it's hard.
No, I see exactly what you mean. So one awesome question. So let's say we documented all the human experiences, experiment results, right? That we actually did in real life. So we tested this drug on like a group of people, like let's say 2 million people. And then we have this data.
That study would never, I don't think that study would ever get done, but go on.
But like, let's say, that would never be done because of
it's just there'll be there'll be studies in the tens of thousands.
But let's say the
biggest study arguably would be like the vaccine would be like, this has been, it was fast tracked, it was approved in 8 months. And so that's like, like longitudinally, like we'll have, drug approval typically like 9 to 12 years. Vaccines again, I'm not super familiar with like the regulatory framework of vaccines, but because you're giving it to healthy people, you have to make sure it's really safe. And so there is sort of a miracle of modern medicine, like the fact that we're able to do it so quickly. But we'll see what the I'm curious to see what it looks like in 5 years. Like
I see what you mean.
If there's like something wrong with it again, like they're a miracle of modern medicine. Like the fact we can do that is amazing.
Whoa.
We don't have years and years and years of like human clinical data. But now we have hundreds of millions of people, and so it'll be interesting to see like all the papers that come out and whatnot.
And like I'm saying, like imagine all those documents, all those experiment results are now fed into AI. Can AI find a pattern between what drug affects what human being in what age, in what molecule from that result, and kind of predict what it's going to look like for like another million, but like not real human beings, like AI human beings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there are, again, I wouldn't say this is something it's not, I've read a lot about this, but again, I'm not, I would say an expert in sort of the digital twin aspect of things. I know the EU a couple years ago, I don't know if it's still ongoing, but they basically wanted to simulate the brain.
Oh, wow. And
if you wanted to simulate the entire brain, it would take every supercomputer on Earth it's 1 million or 1 billion years or something like that. It's so insanely now that's all the connections in the brain, and that's but like right now it's not possible. Now with quantum computing, it's maybe possible. It's likely. I'm an optimist, so I think eventually you'll be able to do simulations like that.
Yes.
There's obviously the theory that we're in a simulation, but I totally think there are, like, while you can't do simulate a whole human in silico, you can definitely simulate cellular activity. You can on the smaller scale with the computing power that exists now. That is much more doable than I can get like PKPD, pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics,
Yeah.
That data like is just you get it from a mouse. It's
I see.
to go develop a simulated. Again, you can do a lot of this stuff computationally. It's just like the best way to get that data is just give the mouse the drug, see how it works.
Yeah, but like, isn't a simulated human better than mouse? A simulated human isn't better than mouse.
Maybe.
That's what I'm
No,
saying.
we don't know.
Imagine that AI is so complete.
Eventually, I think eventually. I think a lot of this stuff is like quantum computing or nuclear fusion. It's always 20 years away. But I genuinely think we've reached an inflection point where, and I'm in some there's bits and bios, a good Slack, and a good sort of group that I'm in, and you have a lot of people that join this, and it's just sort of like community people that are in what we used to be biotech, and now we're technically tech bio. I don't particularly like the term, but it's more accurate. But you have a lot of these guys that are like ML engineers that would work at Google normally, or Apple, or they'd be at Facebook, and they're like, no, actually, I'm really interested in this. How can I apply my ML ability to these problems that are meaningful? Like, I don't want to get more eyeballs on, Instagram and optimize the algorithm so you stay on it for 4 hours. I want to, optimize an algorithm that allows you to predict, X, Y, and Z, problems in in your liver or your kidney or your brain. And so I think there's a lot of, I think if the 20th century was the century of physics, granted, there were a lot of amazing drugs approved in the 20th century. I think the 21st century is going to be the century of biology, and I think we've really hit that inflection point where, there's sort of a joke. It's a joke, but it's also not. It's called Ebrum's law, which is the reverse of Moore's law. And the problem, this is an issue with tech bio, you could say, is that it actually becomes so, I don't want to say easy, but like you can make so many drugs for so many targets so much faster than you used to. It becomes a prioritization problem because now you have to go, okay, now we can generate a zillion drugs for this target and this target and this target and this target for all these different diseases. What, how do you choose what is worth the time and effort and money and somebody will find valuable? And so it's the, Moore's law, whatever, computing power doubles every 18 months to 2 years. R&D has gotten up until recently more expensive. And again, we'll see how this plays out. But now that we're able to explore novel chemical space, in a way that wasn't possible before, and now that we're able to predict activity much more accurately than we were before, I think you're going to have Ebrum's law start to, invert and start to look more like Moore's law, just like it has. If you look at genetics, it costs millions of dollars in I think 2000 to sequence the human genome. Now you can do it for, I think, $200 with Illumina's new NovaSeq X or something. It's like $250. It's come down dramatically. I mean, even a couple of years ago, it was $1,000, $2,000 to get your, sequence the genome, and now it's like $250.
That's interesting. 300. It's like how AI is getting cheaper and cheaper. The same thing with science. Like, who thought we would have cell phones?
GPT-4 Turbo is the wild. I can run a local model on my phone. I can run like a 7 billion parameter Mistral, whatever. I don't know how you say it. Exactly. I think Mistral, right?
Yeah, Mistral.
Whatever on my iPhone. That's wild to me.
It is
local,
wild.
Totally local. On the phone, like it's totally local model. And my on my MacBook Pro, I can run a if I want a 70 billion parameter version of Llama. I actually don't think the 70 billion is much better than what's the lower one, 34 billion parameter.
I think 13
something like that.
Billion. It's 13 or 17.
Isn't there one? But isn't there like a 30-ish?
Yeah. Probably.
I could be wrong.
Probably. You're right.
It's like some intermediate one that ends up being better, but it's like it's better than whatever the 13, but it's 70 is like marginally better. I could totally be wrong. Again, not a language model expert, but language models do have their place in biotech, but not in the actual discovery of the drugs. Like there's a million awesome use cases: business development, research, like patient stratification. Like like I said, patents. All that stuff you were saying. Like those are amazing use cases just for LLMs. That again, if you're like the life science patent guy, like you're the IP patent attorney at whatever biotech company or pharma company, the language models allow you to parse the patent data faster. They allow you to see patterns. If you're the clinical development lead at whatever company, how can I design this study in such a way that it's likely to succeed? Great use cases for language models.
But not
making
creation?
a drug. For the drug, it's not. Yeah, it might. It may be. I haven't. There are people trying, but it's not and even genomic data. Like if you want to, even target discovery, like there's a lot of promise there as various models improve. But when it actually comes to like, I want to make a molecule or a gene therapy or a vaccine or a cell therapy, whatever it is, it's computational, an antibody or biologic, like these are all things that aren't done with any degree of like reasonable accuracy than you can with physics. Like everything is, you don't even have chemistry without physics. So it all basically comes down to that.
Yes.
And so it's an interesting industry in my opinion, because there's so many awesome use cases for AI, and we'll see how they play out. I think we're in the first. I mean, as you know, like nobody knew we basically. I mean, one of my co-founders, he knew about the transformer and GPT white papers. Well, but I didn't even know why I didn't know what that was. Like, it was like, let's apply these like physics-based simulations, but conceptually sort of utilize, again, very high level conceptualize. Like, if you think of, write me a paper on Thomas Edison, that's your drug target. The essay or whatever is your drug output. Now, again, it's like, that's not what we do, and there's no like UI. It really, like, this is, but at the end of the day, that's sort of conceptually sort of the idea behind it. But at the end of the day, the modeling is substantially, it's not even, it's like conceptually in the same ballpark, but it is like mathematically and algorithmically two different animals.
To be honest, I'm thinking that they are doing great. Like AI is right now it's perfect, because with the power of words, you could call and recall different sciences, right? So you could say, based on no chemistry and math, and then solve this simulation. No chemistry and science, and then do it. And like
there are a lot of companies right now working on like I can't know how to say the name, epimistic AI, I think. And their whole thing is they apply, AI to basically, go, okay, this target and this drug have shown, like they have an interaction in some way, and then there's, they provide more data and context and whatnot. But like, that's like an amazing use case for language model. And that's like an amazing use case to, like, again, it's not simulation per se, but it's like that's like a step in the direction of like, okay, sick. Now I can go like simulate that in silico, and it just gets you really great starting points. And I think in a couple of years, I mean, this year, 18 months, GPT 3.5 came out, 3 came out, and then now we're at Turbo, as the old one had 44,000-ish context limit. Now it's 128. Claude is 200,000 context limit.
Yes.
Like it. I mean, and then obviously there was the whole OpenAI drama, which was like, I imagine what people that watch like Gossip Girl, probably
exactly.
Probably feel, but like was following all the drama, and all because basically I think at the end of the day, it was able to do like elementary school math. And so which doesn't sound impressive, but it is. And I'm not a language model expert, but like that's a really great step in the right direction. Primarily because like, again, this is obvious, but like if you're a really good programmer, and I would say everybody on our team is like an A+++ level, programmer or chemist or physicist, it allows you to be more efficient with the code. Again, like we don't really like use it particularly like for what we do, just because again, like it's not quite there with math yet. Like it still makes mistakes. But I think within the next year, like if you want to optimize an algorithm, you can put it in there and, obviously you check this, but like you'll be able to optimize something much faster than, going to a whiteboard or using MATLAB or like R or something and trying to like improve your algorithm.
But don't you think like all the world's budget should go this way to develop this genius to kind of like help us in everything else?
So I think what's going to happen is like, I mean, you look at llama. That's a commodity. I mean, it's free. So, I mean, your cost is what? Compute, which is like you can run that on a gaming video card.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that. It's like a commodity at this point, right? Like GPUs will be a commodity, and these LLMs are a commodity basically. And so what I think is ultimately going to happen is there's going to be, just like you have in tech, it's sort of a winner take all game. I think you'll have this bifurcation of like the OpenAIs and Anthropics and Microsofts and Googles and Apples. And then I think you'll have open source, which I think it will be and then also like that open source will collaborate with academia, and those models will be as good, if not better. And so I think you're just going to naturally have that. Like I think there'll be and you have so many people that are just, we got guys on the team, they love chemistry, love it. Like doesn't matter what they get paid. Like would, if they could like live in a world where like all their needs are met and they don't have to take a salary, like they would just love chemistry. I mean, obviously we have a team and they're, come pay them well, but they just love what they do. And I think you have that in language models too. And so I think you're already seeing, like if you want Hugging Face, it's like the best model, I think outside of GPT-4 is some modified version of like, some or Mistral or Llama or something. And I just think you're going to have, that will just, exponentially accelerate over the next 18 months. It's like Moore's Law on steroids. I think it's, I mean, we're a year and a half in basically to public access of the shit. And like, okay, I'm next December, January, what is that going to look like? I'm stoked. Like that's going to be like the multimodal abilities are already amazing in regular GPT, in regular $20 a month, ChatGPT. Awesome. Like what will that look like in a year? I guarantee you
way better,
3x faster. And it'll, not tell you it can't, like Adobe can OCR your document, and like GPT-4 like has errors sometimes. It's like that'll not happen.
Never.
Can you merge to Excels? Yeah, that'll work a lot better.
We're coming to the point that there's no need for us to even learn language because they do the job. Like,
no, I seriously, I think like if you're like if I were to do school all over again, I still think I would go like I think it's going to be not an issue. It's going to be a case of how do you apply this? This stuff's easy enough to use. Like a layman can use it. That's what's so appealing about it is you can be a freshman in college, and I kind of wish I had this back in the day. Yeah. But like I'm jealous. It's like you can run it through. You can write your essay, and then you can run it through like another one that like changes it enough to make it not recognizable to the checking, and then it's like a little arms race, and it's like, God, I wish I had that. But
that's facts.
People just become like everything you do is going to be more efficient. Like I don't think we're gonna have AGI for a while, and even what that is, define that for me. Like, does that mean the computer has consciousness? Like, there's this interesting, not paradox, but like sort of like, is there a difference between the computer like statistically being able to determine like the next word of the sentence versus understanding what it is doing? And so it'll be interesting to see, like, how do we define AGI? Like, does the computer need to understand? Well, does that make sense? Like, like okay, you're doing whatever, and you have all this context, and you actually understand like language in a way that the computer doesn't. The computer just knows like this is the most likely next thing it should do based on this information, but it itself doesn't fundamentally understand.
What if I tell you it does?
I don't know. It might, maybe it does, but it doesn't. And I think it's like, that's more of a philosophical question. Like,
it is,
as a human, it's like you have all this, like you like physical real world experience that like, form your being, and like a computer, is there even does it matter? Like, is there a difference between it knowing and understanding versus like just being able to do basically what people can do? I think it's sort of a distinction without a difference, but like,
we will get there though.
Yeah, I think eventually, I think everything is it's just a time question. It's
time.
When it's when, not if.
That's facts. That's so.
Unless the government and EU or like, I think the EU's like doing some regulatory stuff with it. I think unless they start cracking down, I think this stuff. It's one of those things where this stuff moves so quickly that the regulation doesn't have time to catch up. But I think it'll do a lot more good. And somebody asked me this a couple weeks ago. And they go, AI and drug discovery, like, can't you have AI design a super weapon? I'm like, most drugs will kill you. Like, most drugs already don't work. Like, you don't need AI to make a drug that sucks and is lethal. I mean, like, you drink chlorine, you'll die. I mean, it's like the hard part's getting one that works and is efficacious and gets approved and is helpful. Making one that doesn't work is like, most of them don't work.
We can do that.
That's the easy part.
That's easy.
And so there's use case, there's various use cases in like biodefense and creating, things like that. But like, to create like a quote unquote super bug, like, and like there is nerve gas that exists. Like, you don't need. It's a waste. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I always still find that a funny argument against AI and drug discovery, because
it is. And like,
you generate 1 million drugs, most of them either are going to kill you or do nothing.
Yeah.
Or make you sick or what. Like, they just aren't going to be the one.
True. That's facts. I have two more questions, which the last one is a very awesome one. I'm going to leave because I'm very curious to know. First one is, like, how do you see people using AI for essays? Do you see the current education system and like essays and grades and certificates the right way of translating and kind of like verifying that knowledge or like the wisdom in the student? Or is that like completely crap? Let's make AIs that would make sure that the student can do the job correctly, can accomplish the practical outcome correctly, and then pay them for that, instead of like charging them to give them the knowledge that it doesn't even use in the resume. It's
an interesting question. I had this conversation with the president of this high school, and I'm also and the principal of this other one. But in any case, I went. I visited my younger brother. He played lacrosse at Georgetown, and for his last game, he went to a very small private high school for kids with learning disabilities or learning differences or whatever you want to call it. But he's very dyslexic, and he's successful, and it's all worked out, and he has a ton of strengths, but just dyslexic and ADHD. But like, the school had like 80 people in it, and I asked the guy who came and visited to watch the game and whatnot. I said, "So how are you going to teach this? Because they're going to use it no matter what." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I'm like, he didn't even know what it was. Like he literally did. I'm like, wait, no, like ChatGPT 4, 3, 4, 5, 4. And he's like, oh, what do you mean? Like, what is that? I'm like, okay, your mind's about to be blown. So I get out my laptop. We had him over for, my parents had rented this house and had like a bunch of the team over, and he came over for dinner, and my dad cooked up a big spread, and I go, you got to be kidding me. So I get my laptop out, and I pull it up, and I say, write me a 5,000 word essay on, the history of the light bulb, whatever, and it spits it out in a minute, and he goes, oh shit, how are we gonna like what do we do? And I kind of said, I asked him, I said, are you gonna teach them how to use it? Because they'll have it. It's like, when you were younger and you'd have a teacher that would go like you're never gonna have a calculator, you're not gonna carry a calculator on you at all times. I carry a supercomputer with me at all times. So that argument is now like null and void. Like, now, should you know math? Yeah, you should. But like, should you also learn? I think it's gonna be balance. You need to teach people like, these are the fundamentals of all this stuff. Now, how do I take that and prompt this thing to give me an answer? And I also intuitively know that this answer is a reasonable response. Because I'll put stuff in all the time and it'll spit back an answer. I'll be like, no, I need you to do the opposite of what you just did. And so like, I think you just you're going to start teaching more logic, math, like, you still need to know math, you still need to know how to write, like, you still be literate. But I think there's going to be a lot more of, again, you can ban it and you say, hey, like, it's like no cell phones in school. Like, I get that. It's distraction. But it'd also be like saying no calculators in math. Like, they're going to have access to this, whether you like it or not. Are you going to let them use it? Teach them how to use it properly so that they're prepared for the real world where, I use it every day, multiple times a day, to look up every, how many national championships has Washington won, like that sort of thing, stupid things. And then obviously work stuff. But I think the worst way to deal with that would be, no, we're just going to teach you. There's a place for it, and you need to teach people to use it because it's here to stay. It's not. It is. It's not going anywhere.
Exactly.
But you need logic, math, reasoning, writing to be able to use it well.
True.
So there's going to be a place for both, and I think that's the people that treat it like that are going to. The students are going to come out much better than the 70-year-old. Professor or high school teacher or whatever, that's like, nah, you can't use it. Sorry. It's like, no, we're using it. Sorry. Like, no, sorry to you. Like, we're using it. Like, good luck. Okay. Like, I don't know what you want us. This is just what we use. Like, we grew up with cell phones. Kids now are growing up with language models.
Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, like, that is their cell phone moment.
And you just need to teach them language. In my opinion, you don't even need to teach them math to use a large language model. If you just teach them words and like how effective are those words, like for example, we say Jesus. If you just tell a large language model to act like Jesus, you're applying 613 plus rules, ethical rules on top of a large language model, and that's just with one word, like one single word. How, you know what I mean? So it's like teach them language.
Yeah, I'll make like custom GPTs where I go, like I have one that is, I have it act, I say, okay, I'm meeting with this fund. Here's a bunch of stuff that they've invested in. These are what the partners do. This is their general thesis. What advice based off all of this information would you give me, and how can I, speak to them in such a way that, is appealing? What feedback might they give me? Like, what answers should I prepare for?
True.
And granted, most of when I'm like pitching a fund, it's, I'm pitching them, this is what we're doing and whatever. But, I've played around with this, and it's been useful in that I'm able to Like, that's actually a question I wouldn't have thought to be asked,
Mm-hmm.
even though intuitively it's like, that's, I have an answer for it. I just, not something I would think somebody would ask.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do, I have an answer.
True.
So like, there's a million use cases. I think I saw one that was like apply to like a YC app maker. Like there's a million of these, and it'll be cool to see where things are. Like right now, things are good. In a year, it'll be pretty amazing. I have noticed, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this. If you've noticed GPT sort of neutered a little bit in some areas, like it'll say, like what you used to be able to do, again, it would spit out junk, but you could say, so smile strings are how a computer represents a chemical. You could say, give me give me 20 different, take aspirin and give me 20 different modifications, output it in a smile string. And it'll give you 20 BS smile strings that like syntactically don't make any sense. Like, it tries, but it, it used to be able to do that. And now it either won't do it or I always find this caveat funny because it's like, what we do. It'll be like, drug discovery is a multidisciplinary process that requires, expertise in medicinal chemistry and physics and mathematics, and it's an interdisciplinary field, and it requires collaboration between blah blah blah, and it like would give you that caveat. And now I think it's just like won't do it. And I'm sure there's a way that you can hack it or whatever. Yeah. But I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on? Have you noticed that? Like, honest, you'll ask me the question and it'd be like, I can't answer this.
Yes, there are a bunch of things that it used to do, and they used to be correctly, but right now they're just like, for some weird reason, they're not doing it. And one of them is that I noticed that like when reading a YouTube transcript, if you tell it to look at this YouTube video and do it, it will tell you that I can't look at the YouTube video.
Yeah,
even though you provided the transcript.
I'll download a YouTube video and I just throw it in a local model, and it just gives me the transcript. So there's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I think the open source is like, I'm getting a transcript. Like I want the transcript just so I can like reference these notes or whatever it is. Find the, whatever. And I just run a 3 gig, whatever model. And it gives me a dead accurate transcript of the video. And I can't paste it in it like GPT because like, it's not copyright to have the transcript. I mean, it's not an issue to just have the transcript. You already have access to the video. I don't know why the transcript is any different. And I know they're like, now there's like a whole, I know they're doing it for like legal reasons, I'm sure. But I know the New York Times they're suing them. Really? That'll be interesting because the argument is you've trained our data on, our articles and whatnot. Our articles are part of your training data. And which, okay, all right, fine. But like, all right, you're writing an essay in high school, and well, what do? You go look at papers and books and whatever, articles and whatnot, and then you form your essay. So how that's any different, I disagree. I think it's like, it's literally the exact same as you taking that info and consolidating it into your essay and citing it. And, it's literally no different in my opinion. Same. But we'll see how that court case plays out. My guess is what they'd have to do is I believe, again, could be wrong. I believe one of the things the New York Times is asking for in that case is you have to strip all of our data out. Like you have to like delete the model and like start from scratch, which like they can afford to do. But like, come on, that's one newspaper.
Exactly.
Like the model wouldn't change. Like, granted, there's, if not hundreds of thousands, probably, the New York Times has been around for a while. I think like early 1900s, late 1800s. So like, it's a lot of data, but like not really. I mean, it's like I think it's in the hundreds of billions of parameters. I believe GPT-4 is. So like I think the case will basically go like, this is fair use. You're not now the problem is they just need to fix the part where like they've done a couple comparisons where they go spit out this article and spits it out, and it's because it's like a paywalled article or whatever. And my guess is I think this is unavoidable, and I think what ends up happening is they just do a deal, like they're going to have to do all these deals with all these companies to license, all these major corporations and license in the tech or license in just pay them.
But when it's posted online, that means that it's available for free. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now when you like go to an article and it'll be like, you click on it, it's like pay us $1, like read the article.
Oh, those ones. I see.
Like, so I think it depends on the publication, but like you can always find it, and it's just dumb. It's like
it is.
I get it. The problem is not the newspaper. It's a broken. The financial model of like being a journalist sucks, and being a newspaper sucks. It's a crappy model. You have to you sell ads, but like you don't have the eyeballs like Facebook does.
Yeah,
if you're especially even the New York Times, it's successful newspapers. Like Washington Post. They make money, but like it's still a crappy business. Requires a lot of people, time.
It does, and like
research that goes into stuff.
The power of words right now is being a lot more, and like that's why these people are like, okay, we put it out there for free, but now we don't want because we know how useful they are, how practical they can get.
It's like, okay, hey, I published this article on whatever, and I want it, for the public interest. And the thing is, it's like, I think as long as you can't, if it's paywalled, you can't ask GPT-4 to spit it out exactly, like give me the exact article. But as training data, I don't see why that's any different than you just reading an article and parsing it and using your brain to write an essay.
Exactly. It's literally.
So I think as long as you fix that, then I think it's totally fair use. But the courts will decide, a jury of your peers.
Exactly.
Which will be interesting because, like, I still know people that like. I literally talked to somebody the other day. I go, because I have the action button on my iPhone set to just go to GPT and like I can just talk to it. So I just do the whisper, and it just spins it up. Hey, what is the Pythagorean theorem?
It sounds like you were going to say something.
Okay, whatever. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and then it's like I meet people and it's like they literally don't know what it is, and I'm like, I show them that it's like their mind's blown, and then people are like, this sucks because they're using 3.5, and then they use 4, and they go, like I was talking to somebody, and they this person's a college student, and they were trying to figure something out, and they couldn't, and they were using 3.5, and like, this sucks. Like, why would I use this for school? And I'm like, no, I actually don't think you understand. 4 is so much better, and they input all their stuff to help them like figure out the thing they were trying to do, and then it gave it the exact correct right answer, double checked it was totally correct, and it they go like, holy shit, this is
crazy.
Like, oh, this actually is really good.
Yeah.
Because 3.5 like 3.5 sucks compared to 4.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I agree totally.
Like, it's just once you can do the multimodal, it's so much better. So that's why
the snapshot.
It just blows me away,
bro.
It blows me away when I meet people that don't know. It happens like once a week. I'll meet somebody that, again, I live in a little bubble of startups and tech people. So like, but I'll meet, whatever. I'll go home for Christmas and talk to my aunt. I'll be like, do you use like, your GPT-4 for like work? She's like, what is that? I go, wait, what? Like, it can make your Excel for you and output it as a CSV, and then you can use.
Oh, yeah.
That's my rant. That's my rant on like it blows me away. It's like we actually, it's kind of humbling. It's like, yeah, we do live in a bubble.
But when it first came out, I didn't sleep for 3 days. I was just like, what is this? What is that? Like, I couldn't stop. My brain was like, I can't believe in my life, in my time frame of living, this is happening to humanity.
What's wild is I've talked to like my dad about this. He was born in he's 65. He's born in 58. And like, he Born in 58, so he was where 11, 12 when we landed on the moon. And like I can't imagine that because that hasn't it's been whatever 50 years.
Yeah, it's been around.
And so then go or whatever, over 50 years. But then it's like we haven't been back. And so I can go like, wow, that's amazing. Like you used to be able to get on a Concorde. Like he was like, yeah, I would get on a Concorde. I would go from New York to London in 3 hours, and we don't have that. But instead, there's been a huge focus on other stuff, and so it's like, if the 20th century was, I would like to see like Boom Supersonic, like come out with a supersonic airliner. That I mean, they have pre-orders, and you can go, LA to Tokyo in a couple hours, New York, London in an hour or two. The Blackbird, again, this is not AI related, but like there's things I think we've taken huge leaps in. Software, obviously, one of the biggest in phones and whatnot, but like the Concorde did LA to DC in 60 minutes, like 62 minutes or something. Now that's an 8-hour flight, 6 hours, 5 hours. So like we've taken huge steps forward in software and AI and whatnot. But I think now what's going to end up happening is you're going to have, again, this is sort of where tech bio makes a lot of sense in our, to kind of like full circle it. You're going to be using AI to take the bits and turn them into atoms. And that's, I think, where you're going to have the biggest advance. Because at the end of the day, in our case, the bits have to become a molecule at the end of the day. And there's, material science companies, it's like, or aerospace companies, they use AI they either do now or will to improve the aerodynamics of their whatever, or can we make it more efficient, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so it's like, I think that's going to be in this century going to create, it's like, okay, we could do that. I mean, the SR-71 was designed in the early 60s. The Concorde flew in the 70s. Like these guys had paper and pencil and designed I think it had one accident, a supersonic airliner with slide rules and then, they had computers, like, but they sucked. Like you basically had rooms of engineers designing these things with paper and paper and pencil. And now you can have that, orders of magnitude more, optimization of an aircraft's,
aerodynamic.
Like right now you can't fly an airliner supersonic over the U.S. barring like a military jet. Like you can't fly a commercial airliner supersonic because the sonic boom is so freaking loud that they're I don't know if this is true or not, but like it would shatter windows, and so they couldn't fly it domestically, which made it problematic. But there's now people applying AI to mitigate the sonic boom, and so it there are a myriad of ways can direct that up, and so it's like there's going to be, I think, the biggest in our lifetime is not okay. They did all the hardware in the between 1900 and 2010 or 2000 or no, more like 1990, honestly. And then we had the first Web 1 and then Web 2 and then Web 3 and now we have AI and like now you're going to have that. I think the fusion of the two is we're going to see these huge leaps. I mean, you have self-driving cars. Like in our lifetime, I know Cruise like paused, but like you can get in a cruise. I mean, like 2 weeks ago, you get in a cruise and just like it would just get you there. Like and it had millions and millions of miles with like pretty low error rate, it's my understanding. And so I think it's that fusion that's going to be the coolest. The thing I'm most excited about is like, what can an AI, in 20 years, are you going to be able to go to the, Toyota dealership and the price of self-driving has gotten so low that now you can get a car for 20 grand that can fully drive itself. Like, yeah, I think you will.
I think that those are like all the mini goals, but like the ultimate goal is to solve all the problems with AI. Can you agree with this?
Once a quantum computer has a low enough accuracy, an error rate, because right now the error rate in a quantum computer is too high. to be particularly useful for much. But it'll get there. It's incrementally getting there. Once you have that, there's actually some people that think quantum computers like aren't gonna. The second you look at my co-founder would be able to explain this better. But if you look at the particle, it's a superposition, and like now it's not in the same position that it was, and so there's people that think like, okay, you might not be able to actually make ever a reliable quantum computer, which I disagree with. But once you have like a really powerful quantum computer, I think that's when you'll see this hyper advancement in what most people would probably agree with is like AI, like true AGI. Whereas now I think you're just at a certain point you're capped. Like circuit boards can only, I think we're at like 4 nanometers right now. Like you're approaching the point where like you can only fit so many transistors on a PCB, and eventually you hit a point where you go like, now you just need more, you need bigger, faster, more computers. And it becomes like a quantity thing, versus like you just can't get the speed. I mean, you look at your like laptop or your desktop. They've basically been at like 3 gigahertz, maybe 4, for like for maybe 15 years, 10 years. Like thermally, it doesn't make any sense to go much faster. You start the hotter you get it, the colder you have to get it, because it produces too many errors. That's why quantum computers to be cooled to like negative 250 degrees or 230 or something like that, because then it produces too much error. So I think if you have quantum computing and AGI and whatnot, that's going to be I think AGI and quantum computing is when you'll see that. I don't think you'll see it with classical computers, because I think but I could be wrong. Like, I don't know. I'm not like I can't predict the future, but I think it's going to be once quantum computers are accurate enough, you will then see an AGI that is what we think of as AGI versus the sort of what we have now, or maybe even in a couple of years, that's like sort of a. Have you ever heard of I don't know if it's like the Chinese room experiment or whatever, and it's like if you have a book, you don't. Okay, so let's say you speak Chinese, I speak English, but I have a book that lets me translate the and I receive the characters, and I, then sort of interpret that via like with a book, or the computer tells me, okay, write this down, whatever. The paradox is, or not paradox, the experiment is, I receive information like a sentence in Chinese. I don't speak Chinese. And then the computer tells me, these are the characters you need to write to send back. I have no understanding of what those characters say, but the computer, it's telling me it's accurate. But I don't know what it. I don't have an understanding of what that sentence is. But I hand it back and they totally get it, and then they give me another one. The computer gives me a thing, and I write it down. And I'm theoretically giving them the answers that they're looking for. And to all external appearances, the computer understands, but I have no idea what it's saying. So right now it's like that. Like, is that AGI? Absolutely not. I think it'll be one we can sort of determine, like, and these context windows get larger and larger and larger and larger, and it'll be able to. Again, I'm just speculating, but like, if that analogy sort of makes sense, I think it'll be once we understand the understanding, then I think we get closer to like what is the what AGI looks like, and then people argue then, and it's like a whole different issue. I think that's why you're going to see resurgence in like a lot of like blue collar work. Ironically, it's like, okay, you have all these white collar jobs, you'll still have them, but like, a plumber or like electrician can go, which is like nothing wrong with that job. It's a great job. You make up 6 figures as an electrician.
Yeah, that's
AI. Say what you will about AI, I can tell you what to do, but even a robot's doesn't have the dexterity to get in there and do the wiring, like build a house or like any of that stuff. And so I think those jobs are already you're seeing like pay really well. So I think you're going to see a resurgence in that versus like I think that the 10x coders are going to be 100x coders, and I think the regular coders are still going to be good, but like you're just going to need fewer and fewer and fewer of them. So I think like understanding like how can I monetize this is probably going to be more important than like being an amazing software engineer. Not that there's no places for that, but like I think that's going to be like where oddly enough, if you asked me 2-3 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, go into software engineering. Like I made a mistake as a econ guy, go into software engineering. Now I would argue like that might not be like the best thing to do because I think by the time you graduate in 4 years, like the AI will be so good, you can program your app in like the afternoon. And now it's how do I market this? Whatever. Like it's more of an exercise in that than it is a technical issue.
Yep.
But we'll see what happens, but it'll just get better.
That kind of leads off to the last question, which is, do you think we are living in a simulation?
Okay, you know what's funny about that?
What?
Is I used to think that was a BS argument. And I think it's possible. Like I don't think it's not it makes total sense. Like I totally fundamentally understand it. I don't think so. But like it could, I mean, possibly.
Let me tell you
but
this,
I don't think it's I don't think it is an illogical argument. I think it is a totally rational thing to think. I used to kind of think it was crazy, but I was like, no, it actually, if you have enough physics, AI, computing power, and enough energy, because it would take a, insane amount of power. If you were an advanced enough civilization, you'd be able to, make the Sims in real life. So I think it's totally possible. But I mean, whether we are or we're not, does it matter?
It does matter. Why? Because right now, like I read this book, and it all comes to
we simulate ourselves as a simulation.
No. We connect to God, and we create abundance in life, and we create the perfect simulation for God as co-creators. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
So
it's a weird. I read a quote the other day from Leonardo da Vinci, and it was God will give you anything for the price of labor. Meaning, like, I not have to be like philosophical, but basically, the meaning there is if you're willing to work for it, you can make it happen. So it's like, I think we, a lot of really smart people are working on this stuff, and I think we will get to a point where we'll be able to simulate some aspect of. I mean, definitely not possible now, like to simulate like the brain. You can't do it. Like you can't.
Yeah.
But I think eventually, whether it's 100 years or 1,000 years or a million years, and civilization is still around, and that time, I think I'm one of those people who are like, I think technology and engineering can solve, given enough time, I think can solve any problem, or most problems.
Yes.
99% of them.
Practical problems, right? Like things that it's like our problem, not like go search the entire universe for the amount of like planets you can find. Like who cares?
Yeah, there's stuff where it's like what's funny. So I also used to kind of be of like, why would anybody major in astronomy, like other than just for the interest of it? And I saw a thing by Neil deGrasse Tyson, and it was basically we get the MRI machine from, and this is why I think like if you're really interested in something, study it. We get the MRI from astronomy because somebody determined like magnetic resonance, and ultimately we were somebody then took that application or that theory and applied it to an MRI, and whatever. Now we have the MRI machine, and And it's now you can look inside the body without making a single incision. And, with incredible detail and accuracy and see these varied tissue types and whatnot. And so it's like, I think, again, not to be all like, I think it's like, I think we're going to, people, I think you coagulate enough smart people in the room and we're going to be able to basically do all of that. And it's a question of time and money. It's not a question of like, there are things that are literally like the laws of physics prevent it from being possible. Right. But like barring that, it's like traveling at the speed of light. Like, can you travel the speed of light? You would need like an infinite amount of energy you literally like an infinite amount of energy to travel the speed of light. But you could travel like pretty close to it. It's just like you'd have to figure out a way to harness that amount of energy. Now, I think the closest star is like a couple, like a couple hundred light, like maybe a couple dozen light years away. Like it's still, it's like whatever, 100 light year, 50, 100,000 light years. I think it's Alpha Centauri or something. It's like, okay, that's still 1,000, like still a multi-generational trip. Yeah. So it's like, it's still, even at the speed of light, the universe, anyway, this is like so tangential, but like,
you're so right.
I think
I know
it's totally possible. It's just time.
Yeah. And
so
like the reason
quantum
why
computers, I think, are, but it's like, it's not like you're only limited by like just things that like literally aren't possible because like the laws of the universe just literally make it not possible.
Yeah.
Like physics prevents it from being possible.
Doable.
And so barring that, you can't have perpetual motion devices, but you can't have a fusion reactor. So like, again, barring physics, like I think most things are doable, and I think technology can solve basically any problem. I mean, you look at, like your phone, like used to be a fucking flip phone and could basically do nothing but make a phone call, and now you can run a local AI language model on your cell phone. Like the everyone on they always say like the Apollo, astronauts, like they had as much compute as your like cell phone. Yeah, like your iPhone 3G, like the first or second one. Now it's like, or whatever, you 10 times whatever the number is. It's like the same computer on the Apollo capsule, and your phone had like the same amount of compute. Or it was like a regular calculator. Okay, now you can run an AI model on your phone. They can answer effectively any question with like 80+% accuracy. So what are we gonna have in a year and a half? That's gonna basically make people are gonna be able to design more efficient batteries and more efficient things you wouldn't have thought to think, and make the phone thinner or make the plane faster or make the whatever. And so it's that culmination. What's the word? The singularity. It's almost like you have all of these technologies that are going to converge and allow a lot of things to be possible much faster than they would have otherwise been. So that's my philosophical rambling argument. Whatever. I think a lot of cool stuff in the next 10 years, and knowing a lot of startup founders doing some really, really cool stuff. There's a lot of stuff in the pipeline in name the industry, especially in deep tech and frontier tech and life science and ag tech. Like these are fields that were sort of neglected for a while, and now I think you have a lot of venture investors or whatever kind of going, all right, like I'm not going to be invest in the 80-second CRM. HubSpot, whatever it is, Salesforce, whatever. I want to invest in the company that's doing 3D printing of rocket motors because, they can make them more efficiently. They can blah, blah, blah. There's a business there, and it's novel and it's pretty freaking cool. So, and, as AI gets better, they'll be able to refine that process, I'm sure. And that's where I think we're at. Like, I'm super stoked for the next 2 years. The stuff you're going to see coming out of every industry is going to be insane.
It is,
and it still blows me away when people don't know what a language model is.
Same, bro. That's so annoying. Anyways,
it's
thank you
fun.
so much for being here. That was an awesome conversation. If you have any final
Absolutely,
words for
man.
the audience, we would be glad to hear it.
No, just you know, I think biotech I think it's the coolest things people work on. I think it's incredibly important and meaningful. And if you have you know, a relative or a family member or whatever, like, you know, get involved in like these patient advocacy groups and whatever. And you know, for every disease there's a patient advocacy group, and you know, I encourage you to you know, donate to those groups or get involved in some way, because especially for like rare disease, are, you know, these are groups of a couple hundred folks, you know, a couple hundred families or a couple thousand families that are trying to get a drug approved for something that is that you know, most people kind of don't care about. And so any way you can support those groups, I think is really meaningful. So and again, that's not like I'm not like plugging us, I'm just saying like if any, like these groups don't get as much attention as they deserve because they're living with like pretty severe or debilitating things. So I encourage you to, you know, help those folks any way you can. You know, that's sort of my my humanitarian take. And also if you're a software engineer, you know, get better.
Definitely.
Because or be able to prompt GPT-4 better. Because I think as you become a better prompter, and as the AI gets better, and you are learning it now, and if you're a teacher watching this, you have stumbled upon it, don't ban it. Like when I was in school, they banned like you can have your calculator like on a test, like or whatever. Like teach them how to use it properly. So anyway, that's my like appeal or final words.
Thank you so much. This is
man.
great.
No, awesome talking to you as always, and hopefully talk to you again soon.
Definitely, we'll do a second episode very soon. Thank you so much for being here,
brother,
and have a very awesome day. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye bye.